What's up everyone, Ray, and I'm back in the Throttled Roots garage, and today I'm going to be showing you how to change all the fluids on your Harley-Davidson motorcycle. We're going to be changing them on this 2007 Ultra Classic, but it is very similar across all the platforms, an Evo, a Twin Cam, an M8. Let's get started. I'm going to show you the tools that you need, the basics that you need, how you can save yourself some money by just doing this yourself and taking a little pride in working on your own motorcycle. You're obviously going to need your fluids. You're going to need some engine oil. You're going to want to get some transmission fluid as well as some primary fluid. Now, the options of what you can use are plentiful out there. So do a little bit of research, find out what is best for you, your application. But generally speaking, if you go to your Harley dealership and say, I need oil, you ask one of your friends, they're going to at least guide you in the right direction. By the way, this video is brought to you by Law Tiger. So if you ever find yourself where you need a little bit of help because of a motorcycle accident, make sure that you hit up our friends at Law Tigers. So let's get started here. I'm going to show you guys the fluids that you guys need. I would suggest that you go and you buy yourself a big giant size of it because it's nice to have extra. This is Bel-Ray. This is 2050 weight. This is for the engine oil. The other thing that you will be changing out is your primary fluid. I'm going to be also using Bel-Ray's primary chain case fluid. When you're changing all your fluids, you're going to want to make sure that you change out your transmission fluid as well. Again, I'm going with Bel-Ray transmission fluid. This is a little heavier weight than the other oils that you will be putting, so you typically kind of want to make sure that you are getting something that is specific more to gear oil because of the heavier weight that it is. Last and certainly not least, if you're going to be doing an oil change, you'll want to make sure you change out the oil filter. Don't skimp. Make sure you get the oil filter. For this one, I'm going with a K&N oil filter. And because there's so much chrome on this bike, I went with chrome. So you're really only going to need a couple of basic hand tools to get this job done. For this 2007, all I will need is a 5/8 socket. Check your application. Some of them are a torque wrench, some of them are a 5/8, but nonetheless, they are all very basic hand tools, so make sure you just have what you need before you get started. All right, so the first drain plug that I'm going to hit is going to be the transmission one. It is literally directly right down the middle of your transmission here. Reminder, when you change these, always change the O-rings on your drain plugs. All right, so that one's complete. We're going to move over to the next side, and we're going to start draining the oil and the primary from the other side of the bike. So the next place I'm going to drain the oil from is going to be the oil pan itself. Some people get a little confused with this one because there are two plugs in the same spot. You're going to look for the same type of 5/8 bolt, and it is actually on the bottom of the oil pan, and it faces towards the front wheel, all right? So that's how you'll be able to tell. There is another plug there that looks like it can be the drain plug, but the drain plug is for the oil pan is a 5/8, and it's always facing the front wheel. Now loosen them with your socket until you can get your finger in there and start turning them. Definitely these O-rings need some changing. I don't know if you can see how bad those are, but those O-rings have seen much better days. So we'll definitely get some new O-rings on them. Spend the 10 cents that they cost and replace your O-rings, please. And then my primary one is actually right here. So I can line up all three of these in the catch pan and just drain them all at the same time. This is the way I suggest that you do it. You can, of course, drain one, unplug it, and plug it back in, then do the next one. If you have a big enough catch pan to drain all of them, do them all at the same time. You'll thank yourself later. Now, when you take these out, you will have magnets on the very tip of these drain plug screws. That is there to pick up any small shavings, any small metal. You really don't want that circulating back into your motorcycle. You want that to be caught on here. So when you take these off, make sure you take a look at those and examine how much metal is on there. You don't really want to see big, giant chunks. A little bit of glitter or a little bit of flake in there is probably normal, but if you're catching big, giant chunks, that's a sign that something is happening inside your engine that you may need to be of concern and investigate it a little bit further. So if you look at the tip of this one here, you will see the magnet, and you can see a little bit of shavings that are on the tip of that right there. That magnet actually is picking up a lot of debris and a lot of little metal shavings that are inside of there. So it's doing its job because all that stuff will float to the bottom of your primary or your oil pan. Take out the dipstick plug and it'll allow some air to go in there, and all the oil will come out way faster than it is right now. Remove your oil cap, and that'll allow air to go into here, and all that oil will just flow out a lot faster down at the oil drain. So the next thing I'm going to be showing you is the oil filter. We're going to remove the old one and then put on the new one. And there are plenty of ways to be able to make this not a mess. In all honesty, I just let it rip and I take the oil filter off. Once you take the oil filter off, you will get some oil that's going to drip down onto your frame and your voltage regulator, and it's all going to come down there. So make sure that you have your catch pan down below ready to catch. Not all filters are built the same. You can see that the new K&N filter that I'm going to be putting on actually has a socket head on the top of it for me to be able to get a socket in there and clamp it down. If you look closely at the oil filter that is in there now, the front of it just has a smooth grip on it. Now, you don't need to put these on extremely tight. You can get in there and turn your hand and be able to, you should be able to kind of move it with your hand, but if not, remember, you're getting rid of this. You can be a little crude if you have to, so I'm about to be. Got some oil filter pliers to reach all the way around the oil filter. I'm going to dent this thing. It's not going to get used anymore anyway. How you get this off doesn't matter. Just try not to scratch anything on your bike. Give it a twist forward. You can see it turning. Putting some good dents in it. But again, I'm not really caring about this filter since it is coming off anyway. So once you get it to that point, you can now get in there with your hand and just turn it. You can see you just really have to break it loose. Now, there are things that you can put. Harley makes a tool that you could slide underneath this oil filter so that it does catch the oil and kind of drains it all to one side. I'm going to let it rip potato chip, and I'm just going to go in there, spin it off really quick, and let it do its thing. And actually, because this bike hasn't been running for a little bit, we haven't had a lot of oil that is running through the filter, so there's not a lot of oil in there to drip. If you just brought your bike in or you just got it from running around, which I do highly suggest, you take it out for a little 5-minute ride, let those oils kind of get warmed up so you can get them all out. But since this bike hasn't run a little bit, everything drained out of this and there wasn't a whole lot to drip out. But normally what you're going to do is you're going to get a decent amount of drip coming out of this here, as well as whatever is remaining in your filter. If you're new to changing your oil, you're going to want to make sure that you prime your oil filter a little bit here and just get some oil kind of around the lip of it here. And also, it doesn't hurt to put a little bit around your gasket here so that when you go and wrench it on, it doesn't get ripped. It has a little bit of lubrication for it to slip on nice and tight. So I like to just take some, put it in a cap a little bit, dab my finger in it, and then just kind of work it around the edge a little bit. Just get it primed up a little bit. Kind of let it work its way into the holes. Just get this in there with your hand. Make sure that you get it started and you feel like the threads are on there. This is not a part you want to cross thread or strip. And to be honest with you, it doesn't need a lot of pressure. Turn it with your hand as much as you can. And then you can get in there with your socket. Just give it a little extra to lock it into place. So here's a visual of what you don't want going back into your bike. Imagine doing this work and then having it drip from one of the drain plugs simply because of these 10-cent O-rings. Do yourself a favor, replace them all, get yourself some fresh ones so you don't have to worry about any of that stuff when you go and put these drain plugs back in. Alright, so the last step for you to do is now start to fill up all of your fluids again. I'm going to start over here on the oil side, but I'm going to take the transmission dipstick off as well. They're typically right next to each other. Your oil should be this big cap right here. So you're going to take the oil cap off so you can put your oil fill plug back in. And then right next to it is usually your transmission, and it is with a Allen head, usually the biggest one you got in your tool bag. And you're going to go ahead and break that loose and take this piece off as well. Your transmission and your oil fills are right next to each other. Make sure that you don't cross them. The oil is the bigger one. The transmission is a smaller one. The transmission always has a thicker fluid for the gears that are in there. And then you're usually going to use about a 20-50 weight inside of your oil. It's usually around 4 quarts, 3.5, 4 quarts with a new filter. 6-speed transmission, usually 1 full quart. All right, so for this, we're going to be using Bell Ray 2050 weight oil for your motor oil. And we're going to start off with a few quarts in here. So the next one that we're going to go ahead and fill up is going to be the transmission, which is usually located right next to the oil. And this one is typically going to take a full quart. I am, again, using Bell Ray gear oil. It's a little bit thicker. You can see it's an 85-140 weight. So this is designed to be a little bit thicker for all the gears that are inside of there. So take a full quart of this and dump it into your transmission. Let's see just how much thicker it is. It's a little bit longer for it to go down the funnel. So on your transmission, you can go ahead and put in the whole quart. Check your owner's manual. All of them are a little bit different. But typically speaking, a quart of oil is what you're going to need to cap off your transmission fluid gears. There you go. These are done. We're going to move over to the primary side where we have to take the derby cover off. For you to fill up your primary, you need to take the derby cover off, and there are 5 torque bolts that are holding this in place. So now when you open this, you're going to find that there is very limited room to try and get fluid inside of here. This clutch basket is kind of in the way. Harley does make a tool that actually slides down in here, and it's a funnel that comes out this way, and you can pour it from the top. Harbor Freight has a set of funnels that come in many different sizes. There is a little groove right down here on the bottom, so if you get one of these small ones like I do, I just kind of jam it right up in there, just like that, and I pour it in. You can get a solo cup and kind of cut it, is what I used to do as well. Get creative, figure out how to do it, but if you get a really small funnel like this, you just pour it in a little bit at a time. Same thing here, 1 quart of fluid will do it. To be precise, if you look inside, kind of look from the top down, you'll see the clutch basket inside of there. When your clutch basket and the fluid are touching, that is the place that you really want to have your fluid level at. But typically that is 1 full quart of fluid in order for it to be at that place inside your primary. But as generally speaking, 1 full quart of fluid of your choice, your liking, your preference inside the primary. All right, so there you have it. Really doesn't take a lot. You really just have to have a couple of basic hand tools. You got to be willing to get your hands dirty a little bit, and it will save you a ton of money from taking it to a shop or going to a dealership. It's expensive to own these things, so any way that you can save a cost to buy new parts is always a bonus, right? So until the next one, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you like what we got going on here. We're always working on something in the garage, and make sure you get over and listen to the podcast over on Spotify, and check out the Instagram where you can keep up with all things Throttled Roots related with our events. I appreciate you guys watching, and I hope this helps you guys. Until the next one, we'll see you here in the garage. Later.